An American in Paris has been played wrong for more than half a century. And now the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra is opening up our eyes and ears with the premiere of a new critical edition.
George Gershwin, I think today is looked at as one of the pioneering and sort of emblematic composers of American music. In the 1920s, he was a renegade. He was a guy who was coming out of the popular sphere, out of Broadway, out of popular song. He was not a classical composer.
On that time, people were quite conflicted about putting jazz in an orchestral music. And Gershwin had the imagination and the courage to make it.
He wasn't hearing a certain kind of music and saying, oh, well, that's jazz, and this is classical, and this is music of sort of, white Europe, and this is music of black America. He was hearing sounds, and those sounds became the ingredients. And all of those things filter into a piece called American in Paris. In the 1940s, after George Gershwin passed away, sort of well-meaning editors took his music and said, we had this sort of renegade guy who was trying to make classical music popular. He wasn't trained in a conservatory. He sort of broke the rules in all sorts of places, and he just didn't know better. And so we're going to fix his music. Come on, nobody's going to play this music unless we fix it. If you took all of the imagination and all of the unique and special things that a composer does and you fix them, you actually take away that genius. And so with the Critical Edition project, we've gone back to the handwritten manuscript from 1928-29, and we've taken Gershwin seriously. I didn't think we were going to find any big discoveries, and I was wrong.
The most notorious difference is the pitch of the taxi horns.
I'm not going to say we've been playing it wrong, but the way it was originally marked in the version that we were used to was that you had 4 horn pitches, and they were labeled in the score A, B, C, D.
Well, what does A, B, C, D mean? Is it pitch names, or is it just the label? And so there was this amazing moment where I was in my office and I was listening to the 1929 recording that Gershwin himself had made. He plays the celesta part. It dawned on me that, well, this recording is a kind of sort of Rosetta Stone. It can be used to interpret any ambiguities in the score. I just listened to the piece and tapped the notes out on the piano of the taxi horns, and they were A flat, B flat, high D, and low A. They were not a scale. My first thought was actually, no one is going to believe me, because tradition in music is what it's all about. And it had been played this way for literally 7 decades. It was pretty obvious from the acoustic evidence, but the key piece of evidence was a photograph that was taken backstage here in Cincinnati of James Rosenberg, who is the percussionist assigned to play the taxi horn parts, with George Gershwin, and Rosenberg is proudly holding the 4 taxi horns. And what you see is that there's a long one, a little bit less long one, a teeny tiny one, and a huge fat one. And if the A, B, C, and D meant 4 notes next to each other on a piano keyboard, the size would be almost the same, just getting a little bit smaller.
Playing what Gershwin intended is much more dissonant, and some people might that it sounds wrong. Well, when you're in the middle of the traffic jam, Place de la Concorde or Place de l'Étoile in Paris, I can tell you it's very dissonant. The other aspects are the specificity of articulation. For instance, you hear quite often ta-ti, pa-pi, 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 pa-dam, pam, but swing arrived in the 40s. George Gershwin was already dead. In the 20s, it was ragtime. So, when you have ta-di-da-di-da-di-ti-di-da-di-da-da-dam, that's very seducing, very sexy. But actually, Gershwin wrote ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta.
And for Gershwin in the 1920s, what was distinctive about the jazz band versus a symphony orchestra was the wind section, particularly the saxophone. So there are no saxophones in the typical orchestra. There are lots of saxophones in a jazz band.
He wrote for 3 players playing 8 saxophones. So the variety of color was fascinating.
When editors saw this, they thought, this is crazy. We don't have saxophones in the symphony orchestra. They took those parts out. They said they were optional, and they compressed them. What you lose is this incredible moment in the Charleston section where there are 3 soprano saxophones just wailing away. It's this bright, blaring, trumpet-like sound from the saxophones that is now been restored to Gershwin's An American in Paris.
The last thing, there are 104 bars which were cut that we are reopening. They are very interesting. They are rather at the end. Most of it is in 4/4. Suddenly you have 3/4, 5/4. So it gives you a little bit of dizziness or vertigo, which is part of the fun of this piece.
Should we take from 2 bars before?
Exactly. Or the 3 dum.
Yeah.
Working with the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra has not only been a lot of fun for me, but it has been really essential to the completion of this new critical edition. And they've played it so often that this new edition feels to these musicians as the real edition. They have that ragtime feel, they have that early jazz Gershwin feel that really no other orchestra could do at this point.
The whole idea behind American in Paris is the contrast between American and Paris. And I think the new version that we're playing now, it's less cleaned up than the older one, so you hear a lot more contrast. There's a lot more cacophony and some more sweetness. I think also how we study how to play something by listening to recordings. Starting now with this new recording, percussionists in particular are going to be listening in particular to Mike's xylophone playing to learn how to play the new version.
You know, every musician here had performed zillions of times this piece. They have recorded it, and they still are eager to experiment. Music is not a museum. It's not, oh, we know this piece, we just brush it up. No, we go deeper and deeper to discover with a new light and a new vibe.